ఓం శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః. హరి ఓం. శ్రుతిస్మృతిపురాణానామాలయం కరుణాలయం నమామి భగవత్పాదశంకరం లోకశంకరం. విషయానామానుకూల్యే సుఖీ దుఃఖీ విపర్యయే సుఖం దుఃఖం చ తద్ధర్మః సదానందస్య నాత్మనః సదానందస్య నాత్మనః. See, this is the text called Vivekachudamani by Sri Shankaracharya, the patriarch of Vedanta. You see, generally in the society there are quite a few misconceptions about life, and that becomes the basis for suffering. People do suffer a lot. If you examine people's faces carefully, you can see a lot of suffering in people's lives. There is an occasional moment of happiness, but that is very short-lived. These moments of happiness are very short-lived, and people live under some duress, some pressure, and they suffer a lot. And people are ignorant also. They are not only suffering, but they are ignorant. You see, if the suffering person is intelligent, or he is given to some understanding, he will be able to appreciate the causes of suffering correctly, cause or causes of suffering correctly, and then he will be able to redress those causes, thereby come out of suffering. But suppose the suffering person is ignorant, that compounds the problem. So now, being ignorant, he imagines all kinds of causes for his suffering. So generally people, while they are suffering, they assume the people around are responsible for their suffering. This is called the classical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law syndrome. That's a syndrome, because mother-in-law believes that her suffering is caused by daughter-in-law and vice versa. This is a very common trait among people, that they believe others cause the suffering to them. And then there are some systems which they call tradition. Did you ever notice what is a tradition? Did you ever pay attention to that? What is a tradition? Tradition is a very flowery expression. It sounds very nice. And people love to call themselves very traditional and all that. Because when I call myself traditional, I become respectable. There is a respectability associated with tradition. I would suggest you to think what they call tradition. Rather, they flaunt tradition. ऐसा flaunt करते हैं. It is nothing but a particular conditioning of the mind. That is what it is. And so there are the so-called traditions which are but conditionings, different types of conditioning of the mind, in which you are led to believe that something else, this is responsible for your suffering, that is responsible, like that. People, they will be going round and round and round, never coming to the very cause, the very source of suffering. They don't come to that. They'll be going round and round and round, searching for causes of suffering and making amends to those causes. The causes being products of ignorance, the amends they make are equally ignorant, and therefore the suffering continues in one form or the other. The point I was trying to make is, people suffer because of, people do suffer, and they don't know the real cause of suffering. And therefore life lived with a variety of misconceptions causes lot of heartburn and suffering. This is how it happens. That is how the societies and peoples are. That is what is called samsara. A general name is given to this. What I have just now described, there is a beautiful name to it. That is called samsara. The samsara name is sometimes people take it in a very good sense also, though there is nothing good about it. So they say we are in samsara, therefore all these things are normal. So you live an abnormal life and give a name to it called samsara, and therefore believe that it is normal. Just because you name a thing in a particular way, the abnormal doesn't become normal. So the aspirations of people are abnormal, the desires of people are abnormal, and their fears are utterly meaningless, of course abnormal, and that being the life, so you call it, you believe that to be normal. Then what is normal about it? Your aspirations are utterly meaningless, your desires are worthless, your fears are rational-less. What is normal about it? There is nothing normal about it. Therefore, no surprise that people do suffer. This is called samsara. I am describing samsara. I am not admonishing you, okay? I am describing samsara. That how samsara feels. I am describing it. Maybe I put a little poetry into it. I don't know, that you have to decide. But this is what samsara is. I say, this is the proposition in Vedanta. The samsara, the suffering, the human suffering, is caused by a variety of misconceptions. At every step you understand things wrongly, and therefore you are destined to suffer. There is a law. These are the laws of Vedanta. The law is people suffer because of falsehood. Truth will never ever make you suffer. It is always the false that makes you suffer. Truth never. That is the law of Vedanta. Because truth liberates you, rejuvenates you. It doesn't make you suffer. It is always the false that makes us suffer. Therefore, whenever there is suffering in life, which is very normal, very common, we have to examine where is the mistake, where is the misconception. What is it that I am getting wrong that makes me suffer? So that way we have to examine. Therefore, understanding becomes the critical element in getting rid of suffering. People, they run hither and thither in search of a means to escape from suffering. The desire to avoid suffering is very genuine, but the means that the people pursue to get rid of suffering are all misplaced, are all wrong means. So they run everywhere. So the worldly people, what to say of the worldly people? They believe that money and pleasures will make them happy. It is like a child holding on to a lollipop in the mouth and believing that it is happy. No, people are no better than that. So they get hold of some pleasure here and some pleasure there, and make some money and count it and try to become happy. And that kind of happiness is very short-lived. That is very obvious. And so that is the worldly people. Then coming to people who are given to religion, generally worldly people do not reach beyond that. They do not reach beyond artha and kama. They touches only artha and kama. They are unhappy, they get some more pleasures. Still unhappy, get some more wealth. Still unhappy, get some more pleasures. So they reach, it stops at artha kama level. They don't go beyond that. Some people reach beyond artha kama. Then the religions grab them. The religions of the world grab these people who are trying to reach beyond artha and kama, beyond wealth and pleasures. The religions of the world grab them and try to condition them that this religious belief, this conditioning of the mind will help you to overcome suffering. So the conditioning is given a beautiful name, as I already told you. They call it a tradition, or they give it a beautiful name to it, some beautiful name. You all know all these names, and people reach to that religion, reach out to that religion, and catch it, hold on to it, and try to find some solace in it. Again, like a lollipop for the child. It doesn't make anybody continuously happy or any such thing. Some respite, some short-lived respite from the afflictions of samsara. That is all people get in a religious situation. You see, these people who perform rituals, what is it they get out of it? Did you ever pay attention to that? They do a lot of rituals with a lot of enthusiasm and energy. They put a lot of energy into it. What is it they get out of it? You think they are happy. They think they are getting happiness out of it. It is not happiness. Because happiness is Atma. What they get out of these elaborate rituals is, please try to understand, I am not against anything. Please understand, I am not against anything. Who am I to be against this or that? Who am I? I am a very timid guy. I live in a corner. I am not against anything. I just try to examine what is. That is what I try to do. That too, with your help, I try to examine. Nothing more than that. So, I am not against rituals. You should not misconstrue the whole blessed thing that way. I am not against, I am saying it so many times, I am not against the rituals. I have done plenty of rituals in my time, and I know most of it. The rituals that go on, I know all of it. Therefore, sometimes I enjoy it also, provided they do it right. And so, I am not against it. I am just examining it. So people, what they get out of a performance of these elaborate rituals, that is not happiness or that is not fulfillment. That they get a sensation. What they get is a sensation. And obviously, the sensation is very enjoyable. It makes you feel very good as long as it lasts. And the sensation lasts for a very short time. And that's why the ritualist, once a big ritual is over, he will keep quiet for a very short time. And then he will come out with another ritual. Because the earlier sensation, it has waned, and so he wants a new sensation. Therefore, that is how a conditioned mind operates. You do not find any meaningful solution to the human predicament in ritualism, in rituals. This point is made very clear in Vedanta any number of times, like the famous law from Mundakopanishad, Nastya kritah kritena, that fulfillment, that a sense of fullness. You want to call it happiness, you are welcome to say so. You won't get it from effort. Krata is effort. From effort you won't get it. Effort gives you some sensation, and which makes you feel good for a short while, and then it wanes, and you are left high and dry. So this is how it happens. So many people reach out to the religion and they get established in some kind of a tradition. It's a system. A system, another name for the tradition, it's a system. Maybe well thought out, but put in place by human thought. Any system it doesn't drop from the heavens, The systems are put in place by the human thought. And therefore, you receive a system which is put in place by somebody else's thought, and give it a flowery name called tradition and all that, and become a slave to that. That is not going to make anybody happy. That is not how you solve the problem of human predicament. You have to reach beyond the religion also. These are all steps in between. Like you have to make some money and you need some money. I am not against money. You need a few pleasures. I mean, you have to be very cautious about pleasures, Bhoge roga bhayam. So, some pleasures happen. Probably you don't need pleasures, but some pleasure happens on the way. So then some religion is always there. Some faith is there in everybody's life. But you should not get stuck at that level. You have to go beyond. Always you have to go beyond all these systems. Any system has a limited value, and it can serve a purpose of taking you beyond itself. It helps you to go beyond itself. Or it can bind you also. The ladder that can take you up can also bring you down. These systems are like that. It can help you to go beyond, then it has done a great service, or it can bind you where it can make a slave to itself. This is how these things work. Therefore, these things will be there. Some money, some pleasures, some religion will be there on the way. We are not against any one of those things, but you should be very cautious that you won't allow one or more of these become a limitation to you. You should not allow them to limit you. They will. If you are not careful, they will. So you have to go beyond. What is there beyond? Beyond these three, dharma, artha, kama, dharma, that is what I have described. Dharma, artha, kama I have described. What is it that is beyond? You see, these three which I have described, they are given a name. They are three. They are called Trivarga, a group of three. The rishis called it a group of three. And now somebody is studying. In Bhagavatam it comes, he is studying under a teacher. Then a Mahatma asks, what is it that you are studying? That study, does it belong to Trivarga or is it beyond? Like that he asks. The answer is it is a Trivarga, within Trivarga. Then the Mahatma says, then you have yet to come to the real one. That is what he says. Did you get what I am saying? This comes from Prahlada story. Prahlada was asked to study, these are all symbolic. Prahlada was forced to study Trivarga, and he wants to study something beyond. You can see that in this story of Bhagavatam. Only thing is, you should be very careful. It's a story. You should not try to create a religion out of it. Then again you lose the track. So you have to put up a temple now for Prahlada. That is where it will end up. As if the existing temples are not enough. You need a Prahlada temple. Really, I did not come across a Prahlada temple, really. I have come across a Shatrughna temple, Bharata temple, Lakshmana temple, but not a Prahlada temple. We should have one such temple also, I suppose. So this is what people are. They get stuck. Prahlada is a symbol, it is. Symbolic. He signifies the bliss arising out of knowledge. That is Prahlada. Prakrishtam hladaha yasya saha. He signifies the bliss arising out of knowledge. Prahlada is a jnani bhakta. Anyway, therefore you have to go beyond. You have to cross the portals of the three and go beyond, which you can call the fourth if you wish. Sometimes they do that. In Sanskrit, the fourth is called Turiya. Turiya is the fourth. Turiya is not some very special name or word. Turiya is a counting number. In English, if you translate it into English, it is the fourth. The fourth. So, what is the fourth? If you look at the three, these three look like some positive. Artha is wealth. That is something which you get into your hands and you can count it also. And kama is something which you hold on to and enjoy very, very closely. That is kama. Dharma is the merit that you are likely to acquire. That is the promise that you acquire a merit. It's a promise, and this merit will remain in your credit. It is a credit religion. That is what they call. It remains in your credit, and credit is a good word, right? So I think so. Credit, okay. And then this credit will be accruing, and one day you will enjoy it in future. So the dharma, it puts you squarely into the embrace of time. Now you are caught by time. Time catches you. Kala. Kala is a big net it is. Indra's net. Indro mayabhiv pururupa iyate. Indra is Ishvara. It is a net. And now you are caught in that net. Net of what? Net of time. How? Because you accrue and enjoy later. Now it is time, between what you are and what you should be or what you will be. What is there in the gap? Time is sitting in the gap. And this is how the religions operate. Now you have to go beyond. Once you go beyond, are you willing to go beyond? That is the big question. You won't misunderstand me, most of the people are not willing to go beyond. Because they are very comfortable with the three. They are not willing to go beyond. That's why what they do, whatever is beyond, they pull it down into the three. It is like a high jump, This guy has to jump a particular height. He doesn't want to do that. Therefore, that rod, he pulls it down and jumps over it. So, therefore, what they do, most of the people do this. I again appeal to you, don't say I am against this or against that. I am not against anything. All are Atma. There is nothing to be against about. But these people are like that. That is what I am observing. You also can observe. So the thing is, instead of reaching beyond Trivarga into moksha, they bring moksha down to the level of Trivarga and try to make a mix, a kichdi of Trivarga with moksha. Some artha, some kama, and some dharma, and also some moksha. Like that they make it. Chaturvidha phala purushartha siddhyartham. That is what they put into sankalpa. Now the sankalpa itself, you have decided you want all the four. There cannot be a bigger contradiction than that. Because moksha is not meant for those who want to hold on to the three. Moksha, the fourth, is meant for those who want to give up the three. That's why I say people don't give up anything. They don't give up anything. They take to sannyas, but they don't give up anything. They say on the bank of the river, I have given up this, I have given up that, but they don't give up anything. What they say they have given up, they don't give up. That is the contradiction. Huge contradiction. Anyway, all that apart, you have to reach beyond the three. You have to reach beyond the three means now karma is behind you. Accumulation of pleasures is behind you. Accumulation of wealth is behind you. You reach beyond the three into what is called jnanam, understanding. That is the word jnanam. I put it as understanding. Because if I say knowledge, you can say that. Jnanam, the word jnanam, it becomes knowledge only. In fact, you can see ja and na. In English also, k and n, that knanam, kna, jna, ja becomes ka. They interchange. Chavarga and kavarga, they interchange. Kuhos, chuhu, choh, kuhu, they interchange. Therefore, it is the jnanam which became knowledge. Sanskrit and English have a common origin, and you can see that in all these words they have a common origin. Sanskrit represents the Indo system of languages, and English represents the European system of languages. They both have a common origin called Indo-European language, which doesn't exist now, and therefore they have a common origin. You can see that in many words. Anyway, that is some story of languages. So, knowledge. So, jnanam is knowledge. But what happens is, knowledge is made into a system. Knowledge is made into a system. Once you make knowledge into a system, now again that becomes a contradiction. Knowledge is not a system. Knowledge is what you know. And it is always fresh. Knowledge is always fresh. When you know it, it is fresh. And it is a discovery. And it is something which is very deep to you. Anyway, so understanding, that's why I use the word understanding. Comprehension. So you comprehend something. You know it, you understand it. That is a blessing in itself. You see, you examine your experiences. Suppose you have misplaced the key somewhere, and now you do not know where is the key. What is the key you know, but where is the key you don't know. And you are searching for it, frantically searching for it. Suddenly you find it. Oh, here it is. That moment, how do you feel? It's a momentary bliss, I tell you. The key may be useless item, it is not a big thing. But the fact that you did not know where it is makes you very uncomfortable. And when you know it, you become very happy. The implication of losing a key or gaining a key may not be much. But the fact that you know where it is, it's a big thing. Similarly, even in some small silly things like puzzles, you are working on a puzzle and are struggling to find out what is it that what number has to sit in that square, like Sudoku kind of thing. And suddenly you find the right number. You know the right number. In that moment, the world doesn't exist. And in that moment, all limitations that you experience in yourself, they do not exist. They have evaporated as though you are the fullness. Therefore, knowing is a very fulfilling thing, it is. Knowing is the very fulfilling thing. The reason is, between knowing and doing, which is intrinsic to the human being, knowing is intrinsic to the human being, not to doing. Don't take the advice from a ritualist. He will tell you doing is intrinsic to you. Obviously, he doesn't know, and he is telling you a wrong thing. Doing is incidental, knowing is intrinsic. You do not get fulfilled by doing. I am not against doing, again. I am not against doing. Doing happens. Some doing is essential also. But that is incidental. Whereas knowing is intrinsic. And therefore, there is always some doing in life. But knowing is the thing in life. So, this is called jnanam. Therefore, in Vedanta, we try to pursue jnanam. We are not against anything. We are not against Trivarga. But our focus is on jnanam. You see, there is a law. You cannot focus on two things at the same time. That is the law. You cannot focus on two things. You can focus only on one thing. The focus definition, you know, all the rays of light get concentrated at one point. That point is called focus, right? So that is how the word focus comes. So you do not focus on two things. You focus only on one thing. Even when you see these two fingers, you see them bari, not simultaneously. You see them one after the other. But you see them so quickly, in such a quick succession, that it appears as though you see them both at the same time. You do not see them both at the same time. You do not see two things at the same time. You see one thing and then see the second thing, and the memory makes it appear as two. Okay? Therefore, you always focus on one thing. That's why people who claim that they focus on jnana and also dharmartha kama, they are bluffing, they don't know. So, your focus must be on jnana. That is important. You see, some people, people who come to Rishikesh from all over the world, they subscribe themselves to a variety of systems and traditions and formulae, etc. Some come to do yoga. Yoga is good for physical health. The body will be nicely bending. When you do yoga, the body bends well. All the junctions bend well. Otherwise, they become very rough and also very brittle, and so stop bending. That's why there is a saying, all is well that bends well. That is yoga. Okay, so you need to bend well. I sincerely advise you do yoga. But yoga is not going to give moksha to you. Our yoga friends will tell you, yoga you do, you will get moksha. If you take one of these yoga texts, Hatha Yoga texts, it will tell you, the one who performs Sirshasan for 36 minutes continuously will gain moksha. Like that they will say, don't believe all that. You are not going to get any of that. And then they also imagine too many things. There is a mudra in which you put the tongue, twist it and put behind, and then from above, drops of nectar will come. Amruta, you know, Amruta. Amrutatvam bhajante, like that we have mantras. So Amruta, that Amruta is sitting here, and then the anatomy, you see, they have their own funny anatomy, which has nothing to do with the modern medicine. So some nectar will be sitting here. It will fall a drop after drop directly into your throat. Near the Adam's apple it will fall, and that will go in and you get moksha. That is how they say. And they have books about it. And they study those books. The books are in the form of verses and there are commentaries in Sanskrit. It's an elaborate system and they spend decades and decades in this study. They are waiting for that Amruta to happen. They won't tell you that it did not happen. They won't tell you. They are like the thief who is bitten by a scorpion. They won't tell you. Therefore, people subscribe to all those things. When it comes to jnana, there is not much attraction in jnana. What is the big attraction here? You take a book and somebody describes it and you listen to it and then you contemplate upon it, reflect upon it, you study yourself and know. There is not much attraction in jnana. People want something that they can hold on to, something physical, something material, or something concrete they want, something tangible they want. Jnana is too nebulous, it is. Therefore they don't care for it. They are wrong. You have to first get this into your head, or maybe heart, even better. Namely, your understanding of life will release you from the bondage of life. It is the understanding that makes all the difference. This you have to get into your system, your psyche, because there are so many things around which work against this vision. which become impediments to this vision. So many attractions around. You should be able to go beyond all of them. So many systems are waiting to grab your attention and hold your attention there. So many things are waiting there. And you should be able to see the false as false. For that you need a very incisive thinking, creative intelligence you need, and you need the courage to see the false as false. All that you need. When you have that courage to see the false as false, and when you have that focus, you can say no to all these things, and you focus on the jnanam, like the honey bee. The honey bee is not attracted by the flower's shape, its colors, and it is not attracted by the petals, their arrangement, the symmetry of the flower, this and that. It just homes in on that tiny drop of nectar and sucks it and takes it. That is the honey bee. That you should be like that honey bee. You should be able to overcome or put aside all these attractive systems and formulae and traditions. So very flowery, very flowery. So flowery. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha. They don't know. So nanyadastiti vadinaha. This is the thing. Like that they said, nothing else. Like that they are all waiting there to grab your attention and hold it. Kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati, etc. People don't read Gita. They chant Gita. They don't read it. And also they are in a hurry to go to the 18th chapter. They don't stay with the second chapter. They are in a hurry always. Second chapter finish karke third chapter ko gona. Okay, you finish 18 chapters, so then what we will do? Again, Sanjaya Uvacha. They want to rotate it, recycle it. Recycle, you know. Array, what recycle you will do? Get hold of one verse. That is enough. Yamimam pushpitam. Anyway. So you have to arrive at that thing called jnanam. Jnanam is what you want, nothing else. Everything else is incidental. Suppose you are looking for a cup of coffee. I am not saying substitute jnanam for a cup of coffee. I am not saying that. You have your cup of coffee by all means. That is a part of the life, and you go through all those motions of life. Dharmartha kama will have their relevance. But you are focused on jnanam. And you have to convince yourself about what I have said till now. Then I have a student here. Otherwise I have only a motley crowd. So you should become a jijnasu. Vedanta is not meant for curious people, people of curiosity. It is meant for people who are leisurely, they don't have much else to do immediately. Therefore, some entertainment, spiritual entertainment. No, it is not like that. It is meant for people who are aspirants, who are aspiring for the truth. This aspire word I love, because aspire is like a breath, you know, the body, the living body, it seeks breath, the life-giving oxygen it seeks. In a very similar way, you seek jnanam. Without oxygen, the body cannot survive. It is the very survival thing it is. Similarly, jnanam, I seek in that, with that kind of enthusiasm, with that kind of a love and a focus of attention. That is what you need to do. That is how a student of Vedanta should be. generally, what happens is people do have a fire in. I am talking of a fire. Yesterday's satsang also I mentioned it. They do have a fire in them to know, the fire to know, and they come. And what the systems do, they douse that fire and put the fellow onto something. So the fellow comes to know self, Atma. Mahatmaji, I want to know the self. That is how the person comes. Now what you do is give him a mantra, some lengthy mantra, and ask him to chant 10 lakh times. Bas ho gaya, the person is now caught. He will be sitting in some corner and will be chanting. And for 10 years he will be do that. And by the time he finishes the chanting, he becomes thoroughly mechanical and repetitive. And that is all he can do. He can repeat mechanically one more mantra if needed. That is all he can do. Because his intellect is blunted and that sharpness is lost. That is what mechanical repetition does to you. You have to think about it. Don't say Swami TV is against mantra. I am not against anything. What do you mean? I am not against anything. I am examining something. So the fire is doused. Once the fire is doused, he becomes a slave to the system and becomes a part of the system. And so he will be pulling himself on, makes himself busy with something or the other. This is how it happens. Don't allow that to happen. You keep that fire going. In fact, people talk of contentment. The contentment, santosha, that is a very great virtue at a particular level. But when it comes to knowledge, you should be thoroughly discontented. There must be discontent in you. There must be that annoyance in you without knowing how can I survive. So that kind of discontent for knowledge, not for money and other pleasure, their contentment. That virtue is different. So please don't confuse this with that. That discontent, that is the fire. That live discontent, that is the fire I am talking about. And you have to keep that fire going. That is the importance of being a jijnasu. So I am just looking at the student of Vedanta. Who is a student of Vedanta? That is what I have described. And then now jnanam. What is jnanam? Now we talk of jnanam. What is jnanam? Generally, these are all critical. In Vedanta, everything is critical. You know what is critical? Critical means it cannot go a wee bit this side or a wee bit that side. That is called critical. Very critical. And goes a bit off, you lost the game. That is the criticality. So these things are very critical. Now jnanam. What is jnanam? Normally you have the expression atma jnanam. The knowledge of the self, self-knowledge. Now, who has to gain this self-knowledge? Who has to gain? Myself. Now, this myself, it will vanish by the time you gain self-knowledge. You see the contradiction there? Therefore, I want to gain self-knowledge. Now I gained it. Look at me. I have self-knowledge. That is not self-knowledge at all. That is ignorance. And therefore, anybody comes forth and says he has gained self-knowledge, immediately you can conclude, without batting the eyelid, you can conclude he is ignorant. Because by the time the self gains the knowledge, the self which gains the knowledge will vanish. That self will not be there. You will not be there. You see what a peculiarity associated with the self-knowledge. Suppose you gain the knowledge of mathematics. Earlier you were ignorant of mathematics, now you are a professor of mathematics. You are there very much to enjoy the knowledge of mathematics. But by the time you gain the knowledge of the self that gains the knowledge will not be there to enjoy the knowledge of the self. It will vanish. What a peculiar thing it is. It is unlike any other knowledge. The self-knowledge is unlike any other knowledge. That is one reason I told you. Also, suppose you know the self. Then you are the one who knows, the self is the one which is known. This is kartru karma, jnatru jnaya. Therefore, the self that you know is the known self. The self which is known is not the real self. Another contradiction. So, the word self-knowledge, you have to very cautiously deal with it. It is used. Atma-jnanam, it is used. That's why, now I come to Shankara. The glory of Shankara is that he harps upon Viveka, the discrimination. In fact, the word Jnana Yoga is there. Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam. Who is the Sankhya? Sankhya is not the Kapila Sankhya there. That is not the Sankhya. Who is the Sankhya? The discriminator. The one who discriminates is the Sankhya. Therefore, in Jnana Yoga, yoga is the upaya, the means, the jnana as the means of liberation. That jnana is not so much a positive knowledge of self as it is the discriminatory knowledge of the self versus non-self. That is the Sankhya it is. Wherever you use this, you see the word Sankhya, it is Viveka. Sankhya is known for Viveka. Prakriti Purusha Viveka. Kshetra Kshetrajna Viveka or Vibhaga. Vibhaga also they sometimes they say, but it is Viveka. So here knowledge is not knowledge of a thing called Atman. No, not like that. If you take it as like that, then again you are in trouble. Because you will be waiting for this knowledge to happen. The moment, in fact, your waiting means you have already put yourself into that Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. Once you are caught in the wheel of time, you are caught. You should be very cautious about it. Anyway, so it is not knowledge of a thing called Atma. No. Atma is neither a thing, nor you are going to know it as the other. In fact, if you know Atma, it becomes the other. The otherness makes it anatma. It is not Atma, it is non-Atma now. Therefore, it is not knowledge of a thing. In Jnana Yoga, Jnana is knowledge, not knowledge of a thing. Then what kind of knowledge it is? It is the knowledge of discrimination. That is the knowledge. That's why Jnana is Viveka Jnana. That is what it is. Viveka Jnana, discrimination. That is all you need. You need discrimination. You see, you know the false as false. That is knowledge. That is the knowledge. You need not know the true as true. Truth is already with you. By the time you know the false as false, the truth is already with you. Why? Because truth is the self, Atma. Truth is already with you. What all you have to do is to know the false as the false. To know the non-self as the non-self. In other words, not to confuse the non-self as the self. That is the Viveka. I tell you, you give a thought to it. As you sit here and now, your problem of existence, problem of human existence is in one word, confusion. That is your problem, confusion. Please hold on to it. So, I look at it like this. This is my problem. what? Confusion. That is my problem. There is another word for this confusion. Confusion is more practical. I mean, it is closer to you. You can understand what it is. There is another word which means the same. That is delusion. Moha. So, you are deluded. It is same as you are confused. Suppose I say moha, deluded. Then when this delusion will, when did it start? Anadi. Moha, anadi. From time, it is a unknown beginning. When will it go? It will go later, sometime later it will go. But suppose I say confusion. Now, confusion is something you can relate to immediately. And then, if you pay attention to the confusion, then what will happen? You become clear of confusion. Okay? So, the one who pays attention to confusion becomes cleared of confusion. Okay? You know all about confusion, you become clear of confusion. Okay, you got it? That is all you have to do. And this effort is called Viveka. Viveka means discrimination. There is a mix-up, not mixing. Mixing is different. Mix-up is a problem. So there is a mix-up, there is a confusion, and you have to end this confusion. You become free. This is called ending the confusion is Viveka. Living in confusion is Ajnana. Becoming clear of confusion by knowledge, by knowing, you become clear of confusion. That is called Vivekajnana, or simply Viveka. Whatever is called Vivekajnana is also same as Viveka. Under that Viveka means knowledge of discrimination, the power of discernment. You discern things correctly. Stop confusing one with the other. In particular, stop confusing the non-self with the self. That putting an end to confusion, that is the Viveka. And that happens by knowing, by understanding. So, look at a thing and examine it. Is it the self or non-self? You have to examine. No, what Shankara said. Shankara said what he has to say. No, what Guru said. Guru says what he has to say. But that is not important. The important thing is what you want to say about it. That alone matters. Therefore, this too much emphasis on what Shankara said, what Krishna said in the name of tradition, you will be always repeating what they said. You do not have time left to look at yourself. You are always looking at what Shankara said and what Krishna said. And then look at what Guru says. Guru, he has to say the right things, and he says, ultimately, these things, I am not against these things. I am not against Shankara or Krishna or any book. I am not against the teaching. I am against the Guru-dom though. So, ultimately, these are all like so many pointing fingers. It is the pointing finger. Shankara's book is a pointing finger. Books are like that. They are pointing fingers. Guru's words are also pointing fingers. You listen to them. And then you look at yourself. And try to see the confusion that you are living in. And that's it. Now you become cleared of the confusion. And life moves. Life continues to flow in its dynamic. It has its own dynamic and it will continue to flow smoothly. Life becomes a smooth flow. You remain what you are. Instead of imagining yourself to be what you are not, you remain what you are. You don't gain anything here. There is no gain. In dharma, artha, kama, there is some kind of a tangible gain. You gain something. Here, you don't gain anything. You become cleared of confusion. You lose or you shed confusion. Suppose I get rid of my confusion, then what is left? I am left as I am. What do I gain? I don't gain anything. I don't gain anything. The fact is, I need not gain anything. I remain what I am. This is called moksha. Moksha is freedom. Freedom is always from something undesirable. Freedom is not about gaining something. Freedom is always about shedding something undesirable. That is what freedom is. And you gain freedom. So this is the perspective of jnana, vivekajnana, and its outcome, phala. That is the perspective. With that perspective, you study this text called Vivekachudamani by Shankara. Viveka is the crest jewel. Chudamani. Chuda is the crest jewel. In India, in those days, they used to decorate the head with a golden ornament. Mainly women, I suppose. Nowadays, it has gone out of fashion. Ornaments are not out of fashion. Ornaments are very much in fashion, but the Chudamani has gone out of fashion. Or still they keep it, I suppose. I don't know. So, and whatever decoration you do to the head, that is the Chudamani. Okay? Chuda is the hairstyle. Chuda is the hairstyle, and you decorate it with a jewel. Now, you see, this crest jewel is not what is outside the skull. It is what is inside the skull, really speaking. That is the crest jewel, okay? That's why, what kind of hairstyle you keep, etc., it is utterly inconsequential. It doesn't matter. Just because somebody has a particular hairstyle, that doesn't make him great or anything. This I have to say because in India, people become great because of hairstyle. Really. A particular hairstyle is there, he is great. Very funny situation. It is not about the hairstyle, it is about, it is a metaphor. Chudamani, crest jewel is a metaphor. You see, you have the faculty of knowledge, knowing, the faculty of knowing you have. That faculty is put to the right use when you know or when you see the false as false. That is Viveka. Viveka is seeing the false as false. It is not so much seeing the right as right. It is that only, but the focus is on seeing the false as false, because you are taking the false for the real. You are mistaking the false for the real. Now you have to stop that mistake, and thereby means you have to see the false as false. You should be able to see the non-self as the non-self. That is all you have to do. It is all about seeing. That inner vision, that inner eye has to open up, kind of. Now again metaphor. People believe that there are two eyes outside and one inside, and that is closed, and by some yoga practices it will open. You see, this is there are a few laws, Murphy's law, Moore's law, etc. I have put a law of my own. Swami TV's law, it is called. If there is a wee bit of a chance to get misled, people do get misled. That is the law. That is my law. Therefore, the moment I am afraid of saying third eye, because the moment I say third eye, people get misled by that. There is somebody who is willing to mislead people about third eye, and they are willing to be misled. Therefore, you cannot use any word. It is like I say Chudamani, and so somebody purchases a jewel and puts on the head and comes to the class. It is like that. People are crazy, I tell you. Therefore, that is the Viveka, the discrimination, the discernment, the ability to see the false as false. This is false. Don't tell me this story. This is false. The ability to see the false as false. That ability. For example, the sun rises and sets. No. Sun neither rises nor sets. It appears to you like that. When you stand on the earth and look at the sun, it appears like that. Be very clear about it. I am not against the almanac where timings are noted. The sunset time, sunrise time is noted. I am not against that. In fact, I get up a bit earlier to sunrise and all that. We conduct ourselves according to that scheme. But I want to see the truth as the truth, false as false. I don't want to get confused that sun rises and sets. No. Sun neither rises nor sets. Similarly, a few other things. So many other things are there. Where there is something false, you should be able to see the false as false. There are a million people around you who are not able to see the way you see. Doesn't matter. Be like Galileo. When Galileo saw that earth is going round the sun, he was the only guy who knew that in the western hemisphere. He was the only guy. No second person was there who is able to see that. Only he saw that. Oh, now just because he is alone, will he become wrong or what? This is not votes and elections. He is right. Similarly, there are a million people around you who are willing to take the false as right. No, I am not going to fall for it. This is the crest jewel of Viveka. This is the introduction for Vivekachudamani. I have covered a few things, who is an aspirant of knowledge and what is knowledge. In particular, what is Viveka. This aspect I have covered. And so I will take this verse which we have just now said in the evening class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.